So as you go through this unfolding, of that kind of transformation throughout, just watching, here on day 2, my boys are praying for me. Here on day 3, we start saying this, the initial idea was a family project, was a book, but it actually evolved into this entire YouTube channel. And then you see over here, Zach metabolizing and going through his transformation, with these extraordinary series of videos. And then here was the time that I actually started, I couldn't sleep. And then I realized I couldn't sleep not because I'm scared, I have no fear, but because I couldn't wait to start the day. I was bugging my wife. I was saying, I've got to go down to actually feel the day. And my life was beginning to just flourish. And I went down to kind of watch my birds jumping around the bird feed in my backyard. And I had all these epiphanies. You'll see that in here. And then I have a tender moment with Dill over here, who's really processing through this, in his own very tender way. And then this over here is where I'm prepping for an exchange, where I'm doing a 3-day, what we did in kind of one day. I was gearing up to do a 3-day awakening conscious leadership deep dive. And it was really kind of funny because initially I think we called our program Catalyzing Conscious Leadership. It was like leading well from within, catalyzing. And I wasn't quite sure why I called it Awakening Conscious Leadership when I actually put this in play. But I think that was also divine intervention, because I'm in my full awakening right now. By the time I'm going into my program, this was about 1 week out from delivering this program. I've learned, here's what's interesting. I've learned a lot of my skills of facilitation. I was always doing these presentations on leading well from within, but I learned my facilitation with Exchange Community, led by John Berghoff, the most, I keep saying it, the most skilled facilitator in the world from my viewpoint. So I learned these extraordinary skills, and that's, by the way, the benefit of us being on paddle boards in Hawaii. That was actually what I learned from Exchange. And so now, it's really interesting. I'm coming home full circle, and John's asking me to actually deliver a deep dive on him, because he sees that actually all the work he was doing that he needed, this was the missing puzzle piece, this awakening conscious leadership piece, which was how do we lead well from within so we can do the system levels work in the world. So I went back into the community. It's just a wonderful circle of life. And John has become a dear, loving brother and a friend. So I'm actually kind of sharing my story, and I'm actually kind of enrolling people from the Exchange Community into that deep dive over here. And then I go, picks up on a medical thread. I go here and I go to have my staples taken out from my, and I'm about to get a preliminary diagnosis, and I'm terrified over here, like, is this metastases? So you'll see that even though I'm awakened, I still have real world fear. I mean, I have this coming up, like stress happens when something you care about is at stake. And I'm about to find out, do I have metastases or do I have primary brain cancer? And those implications are vastly different. Because if I have metastases, I've got to deal with cancer all throughout my body, and the type of chemo I'm getting is going to be so debilitating, and that changes what I can do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm praying, primary brain cancer, please, you can imagine, neither which are good options, but that's what I'm praying for. And then I get the great news that I have primary brain cancer, and I've never been so happy to get that news in my life. And I'm standing at the top of the cliffs of Torrey Pines, and I'm shouting for the top, and I'm really feeling the joy of having primary brain cancer, because the alternative would have been catastrophic. So I had a lease on life. And then, but that next day, I wake up and start talking about awakening. I start talking about awakening, and this is where I really understand that it's a heart awakening. And then I actually go into, this is documentary style. It's like super interesting. I think people will find it fascinating just from the medical aspect of this. So all my doctors are giving me access to film everything I'm going through. So here I'm actually going through, I'm getting world-class care because Scripps has a partnership with MD Anderson Cancer Center. And they're letting me film what goes on inside here. So it's a window to the world. I'm giving you a window to the world that most people don't get to see unless you're a cancer patient. So here I'm getting set up for my radiation treatment, and they're fitting me with a mask because I'm getting precision, literally precision focused radiation. This is Star Wars technology. They know how to actually kind of laser into focusing the radiation treatment within a millimeter of my tumor. They have medical physicists writing the code in real time for my 3D models of my cancer that I'm building with my brain. And they're actually giving, so here's where I'm fitting with them, like a Silence of the Lambs, got a mask, because I have to be strapped down. I can't even move, on the table. And you're seeing them fit me for that mask. There's a little bit of a thing. But then here's the beautiful thing. That tour ends in the healing garden. They've got a healing garden. And even though I'm getting a lot of technical care, what I'm really expressing appreciation for is I'm expressing appreciation for the compassion around the care that I receive. So even though I haven't started the treatment, I realize, oh, my healing has already begun. And then this is where these videos are long, but whenever you see a video with Amanda Rooker and you've got the time, please watch those videos, because these are the videos that are very deep. It's fleshing out what the mission and vision and purpose of this channel is. And you're getting we're opening the kimono, if you will, so that you can see how we're processing together to unlock the full value of this channel for you. So if you want to get like the backstory of how we're trying to evolve to make sure that we can actually bring full value for you, you'll hear it in those discussions. And then I've got this incredible thing, because there's another arc of the story. I do a lot of work in physician well-being, and it's time of COVID and physicians are burnt out. And so this is one of my clients. I work with many healthcare systems in the country. Here's one of the groups I'd been on deck to do another wonderful group, children's primary care medical group here in San Diego. Big pediatric group. And I've been with him for 4 years, working with Dr. Abram Brody and Dr. Jodie Parsons, and then Dr. Adam Breslow, who's the president. We've been working on these extraordinary well-being committees. In fact, they said I was their CMO, their chief mindfulness officer, which was brilliant. And here we recorded this discussion, and they're just learning my cancer because we're going to do a year-long program. And we have this incredible discussion about physician healing and resilience as well. And then I start, I get into this series over here where I wake up, and when you said wake up and set your intention for the day, here I'm actually setting my intention for the day. I'm imagining what's going to happen. I'm feeling grateful for the day. This is exactly what I'm doing, the 10-10-10. I didn't realize it then, but I'm doing the 10-10-10. I wake up feeling, what's the purpose of my day? What I feel grateful for? And what is about to unfold in the day? And then I have this interview with I have a coaching client, and I had 4 coaching clients that day. And one of my coaching clients happens to be Alexander McCoben, who is the CEO of Conscious Capitalism. So I coach the CEO of Conscious Capitalism I'm in support of his conscious leadership. And so I have this idea that the time is right, because I'm in all these other groups that, and they're talking about how all of our kids, we're all talking about each other, how our kids are struggling. So I had this idea 2 weeks ago, before I even knew I had cancer. I said, I think this is time for the establishment of the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. And then it thread through, and I had my son, Dylan, who's 16, in mind, but now I have this added thing of, I know this is going to break, Alexander was shocked finding the news, but it was also this thread of like wanting me to leave a legacy with my work. And Dylan is an extraordinary leader. He's the president of his sophomore year, Torrey Hill High School. So he's an extraordinary leader already. So I have this vision, well, what if Dylan became the founding chair of the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism? And I pitched the idea to Alexander off camera. and he loved the idea. And so here we are establishing the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism with Dylan being the founding chair. Now, that's in name only. Just at this point, that's in name only. So then where we go next is I get the call of this extraordinary day. I get the call where they've got my final definitive diagnosis. So I'm scared now because I know I'm going to get, sometimes we're nervous to get a test result. Did I get an A or a B? Well, now I'm getting a test result that's going to change my life. And I go over here, I go from this incredible sense of heart space, but now the fear spikes come back. And you can have fear and you can have a heart space, but ultimately it's like, what's your relationship with that? But I mean, in this car, like I'm actually kind of, you can see I'm really scared over here driving over. And then I'm trying to settle down. I'm waiting in the waiting room. And then I get my diagnosis here with Dr. Malone. And he's like a part of my dream team. Dr. Malone is the neurosurgeon. And here you watch him. He's the most extraordinary neurosurgeon. And it's not for his technical expertise, but he's the most loving person. And you see him being distraught in having to convey the news that my worst case scenario of all the cases of primary brain cancer, because we were hoping for other cancers, that it indeed was grade 4 glioblastoma. And I think you'll look at that video and you'll see that maybe I'm comforting more than he's comforting me, because and we end with a neurosurgeon. We end with a heart-to-heart hug in that thing. And then we come home, there's a grief response. We go through a grief response. Our family is just like, we're shell-shocked, and we're processing the grief in different ways. We're trying little active learning cycles. Let's try little mini experiments, coming to our place of heart and love. Does that work? Is the energy going up? Are we soothing ourselves? We're running these active learning cycles real time, and I maybe coming to my heart space and a little bit of an edge off. And it's like, okay, Dylan is just pacing. He says, Dad, none of this is working for me. And he grabs his cell phone. He goes up to his room. He says, I've got to shoot a video. And he needs to talk it out. That's how he needs to process it. And here he's talking it out. And he's talking it out he starts out by saying, I don't know if I can keep living like this. He starts out contemplating suicide because it's just too painful for him to bear. And then he points up, he says, well, there's something, maybe I'm in a movie. And he finds this metaphor of the movie. And then he points up and, he's awakening to spiritual life. He says, there's a director up there running this movie. There's a director up there running this movie. Maybe I don't want to check out. Maybe the movie gets better. He says, right now, it's like the movie is like a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. But what if it actually gets better and it gets to a 50 or a 60? And I've checked out on the movie before. And he says, I'm not going to check out of this movie because I think this movie gets better. And he says, he says, my dad already writes movies that are 100% Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe I want to be around for what if it gets better? So I'm thinking, how many lives did he save that night? How many lives? That video needs to be seen by every teen in the country, particularly teens that are suffering with mental health. So if you know a teen, just send that video. If your teen is struggling, send that video to your teen and have them subscribe to that video. Take an action step. Because ultimately, for any kids that actually been contemplating, I just lost my nephew earlier this year because he shot himself in the head. My brother's son killed himself earlier this year in January. I mean, we've had a hell of a 2020, our family. Actually, my sister-in-law died of the same glioblastoma in her brainstem. So that's been our year. I wonder, and I'm thinking about my dear brother, Gary, who's been, I can't imagine what, the thought of losing a child, especially suddenly. So Gary, if you're listening to this, please know how much I love and respect, because I think what you've gone through is far more challenging than my brain cancer. But I wish that Ben had seen that, because he killed himself impulsively. He shot himself in the head. And I'm wondering what would have happened that night if he had had the opportunity to watch this video over here. How might he have changed that choice that he made then? So anyway, so what happened was, in the morning, Dylan claimed the title of chair of the teen chapter of claimed that title, teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism, founding chair, in name only. By the evening, because of my cancer diagnosis, he became the embodiment of what it means to be a conscious leader. This is the most extraordinary transformation that I've seen in how somebody shows up as a conscious leader as a team. And you see that transformation happen through the day from that. And then here I get together with Zach, we get together and we're talking about processing our grief response together. And you actually hear Zach in awe of his younger brother. And this is what we're learning about doing this video series. It's a new genre for healing, because Bill's shooting videos and Zach, forget it, there's no sibling rivalry. Everything has like strains of sibling rivalry, but here's Zach saying, oh my God, I have never seen anything as profound. That quote, and Dylan offers a quote. He said, and his older brother is in awe of him. And so what is it? And then there's these interludes arriving. He has an interlude from my brother, and he's talking at sunrise, and he's bringing it's just like a 2-minute video, and he's standing there, and he's at sunrise, and he's watching the sunrise in Arizona, and he's bringing my dad into it. And at the sunrise, very symbolic, because my dad used to say, today would be a better day. Let every day be a better day than the rest. And I'm even thinking, when you do your 10-10-10, and you're sitting at, like, how can you say, if you bring a little dimension to this purpose, being grateful, how can I make today better than yesterday? So it invokes that. And then there's this one, if you have the time to watch it, and I know by the way, I feel, George, we're going to be one of these long videos. It's going to be like, I think we're going to land up being an hour over 20, but so I hope that we've sucked people in enough to keep the momentum going through it, to watch from beginning to end. But here I am with Amanda Rooker, really fleshing out the purpose of this video. This is the video where you see me have my full spiritual awakening, and really putting so many things together, and actually really understand. This is where I think, in this video, I think that's where I fully awakened, with the dimensions of mental, heart space, and full spiritual surrender, and with the awakening that I have right now. And then at the next one, Dr. Abram Brody, that you'd seen in the thing, he does another interlude. Where he sends me, he's a classical pianist, trained, and I think it's Beethoven, and he's got this favorite, so forgive me if it's not, but he's got this composer, and he says, there's this little riff, and he says, to me, that's the most beautiful expression of conscious leadership, because I'm feeling uplifted when I hear this riff. So, and then this next video on day 15, that needs to be seen by every citizen that's looking to heal systemic racism or any kind of discrimination. Because here I'm engaged in a conversation with Dr. Yvette Miller about healing systemic racism. And that could be a template for healing any kind of discrimination anywhere in the world. So we're having a discussion, and we've been in a very raw discussion. So I just want to I need to just make this a little bit bigger.
Always been involved.
That's Yvette Miller. She's the executive medical officer of the Red Cross. And she tells a story right at the beginning of this, of her being grown up in the civil rights movement. She has a lot of trauma, you know, in terms of what she went through as a Black woman growing up. And she grew up in a civil rights movement, you know, with Martin Luther King, but she was also, you know, was deeply activated by the Black Panther movement. So she was, you know, that awakened the activism in her. So she is a woman not to be trifled with, because she has a spirit of activism in her. She's a powerful Black woman. And she is talking here to a white South African male, the ultimate in white privilege. So we've got a divide that we have to figure out how we're going to heal this. And we're having this incredible discussion. And the rawness of the discussions that we've been having over the last, and this is our fourth discussion that we are now inviting into the world. And we were processing a template for healing systemic racism, modeling of how we're doing that in our relationship itself. And we end with this powerful meditation that becomes a template of how we should be all meditating together around this. So that, I mean, you can see that, you know, the threads that are weaving through this. You can't make this shit up. So the script is not being written by me. It's definitely from a place beyond myself. And we're still getting better. Well, I don't think we can get better than this video, because I think that stands by itself. But there's additional magic that I'm going to share with you that's coming. So after that, there's another interlude with Rachel. Rachel Druckenmiller is part of the Exchange community. She sings me this most beautiful a cappella song. And then I actually, I do this thing because on that same night, you know, I had said earlier in that day, you know, I had wanted this video to get to President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, because I want to be, Yvette and I want to serve in their vision for healing the soul of America. A big part of this, and by extension the world, a big part of this is about healing systemic racism. So we want to align with them. So we said, you know, we had a discussion, how are we going to get this into the hands of, you know, President-elect Joe Biden and, you know, Kamala Harris, who's really opened a lane of possibility for this healing, you know, not only nationally over here, but actually globally as well. And so I got a call that same night, on that same night, by a friend and a dear friend who actually says, you know, is a major businessman in Connecticut, and said, you know, Senator Chris Dodd was in my office right now, and Senator Chris Dodd actually was Joe Biden's best friend, and he was on the election committee of Kamala Harris. Maybe I can get a message through from Chris Dodd to. So I was like, why? How is that all unfolding? Literally 12 hours later, that phone call happened. So I was just like riffing in awe. And then we have another beautiful interlude with Alana Pratt, who's doing this incredible work in really kind of a new way of dating, doing this heart-centered inspiration. She's actually, Alana would be the ideal entrepreneur, because she's to join EO, because she's the spirit of what she's doing is just totally aligned. And then the evening, I get another call back from my colleague, my friend, my dear friend, and he said, look, I think I would like to first, before we pass this message on, I think I would like to suggest that I first connect you with Chris Dodd, because, you know, he wanted me to connect with him so that he didn't put Chris Dodd in an awkward position, just passing something through, unless essentially I sensed he wanted me to be vetted, he wanted to give Chris Dodd the opportunity to vet me. I mean, he vetted Kamala Harris, for God's sake, you know. So he wanted to give him the opportunity to vet me before he actually passed anything on. And that's where we're in the cycle. So I don't know where that's going to unfold to, but I realized that what I had done by actually even sharing my enthusiasm, I might have put my colleague and Chris Dodd into an awkward position, because I might have jumped the gun to actually kind of, so now I actually do, you know, kind of a mea culpa video here on talking about, you know, respect and beauty. Hey, I want you to come meet George.
I met George.
Yeah. Okay. We're actually we're recording this. So now.
Hi, George.
Yeah. This is my. Yeah. I don't think you can you'll have to put.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So we're having this magical, but I also just want to actually kind of just introduce the world, because I know many of you in EO haven't met Sue. This is the love of my life, and she is the person that makes all the work that I do possible. I can't do this work in the world without her, including this YouTube channel. So I just see that she's brought me eggs this morning, because, you know, and
more importantly,
coffee. And then with a coffee mug, very specially, that says Pura Vida. That was our trip to Costa Rica. And Pura Vida means pure life. So how about that for synchronicity? Thank you so much. Okay. So even that's an interlude, you know. So, you know, here's where I do this kind of video, a mea culpa, and really understanding how do we actually do respect and beauty. And then I'm realizing, you know, that what needs to emerge through this channel, I need to honor the beauty, you know, and of what comes through. So I understand that there's a gatekeeper. And even when I look at, you know, I imagine that there are going to be some people that come in with, you know, as this thing gets to like very large scale, there will be commercial interests that will want to take advantage of this. And I need to be the gatekeeper of that. I need to keep asking, does this serve the beauty of what's unfolding over here in the grace of God? You know, because it's his or her script, or thou script. And then here's Zach sharing his reflections, and you'll see kind of how synchronicity is, he's kind of sharing the same things I'm sharing about at the same time, you know, in different rooms. And then I'm actually getting now into my integrative medicine thread. And I meet with Dr. Scott Shannon. He's the world leader on integrative mental health and healing. And we have a 15-minute discussion at the golden hour sitting on Torrey Pines Beach that is just like so inspiring. It's so inspiring to hear Scott talk about his vision of mental. So you can see I'm bringing people into my world that is sharing wisdom that nobody would have access to unless they're here. And then I get into I'm getting to anticipate another extraordinary day. So there's that set my intention, speaking about this day. And then my next call was a call with Alexander McCoben again, and Abby Schwab, who is the producer of all the conscious capitalism events. And now we're talking about how we're going to spread, you know, these initiatives. They have a senior leadership network, you know, of what are we going to do to actually advance the future of conscious capitalism together? How are we going to engage the senior leadership network to advance the future of conscious capitalism? So these are big conversations, and you get a window to the world of that. And then this is a place where I transition my story from being, initially I wanted to bury my cancer story. I was actually burying it. And then here was where I'm driving over, and I think I was doing a disservice. And there was something like, I don't want it to be about my brain cancer. I wanted it to be about what I'm learning through my brain cancer. And then I'm realizing, you know, I'm thinking, how many patients have cancer in this country? Like 1 in 3. And how many families are affected by that? And then I think, well, that shouldn't be entirely a backstory or subplot. That should be a plot line, because I'm in a position to provide a window to the world on my cancer journey that very few people have a window to this world. Because I'm the expert in evidence-based medicine, trained at UCSF as an internist, understanding the world of conventional medicine, the envelope of that world, getting world-class therapy at Scripps MD Anderson Cancer Center with a team that is made up of, you know, I've got the top radiation oncologist, the director of medical oncology, you know, the director of neuro-oncology and the top neurosurgeon in the system that's allied, Scripps is allied with MD Anderson Cancer Center. So I'm getting the envelope of knowledge there. And then I've got this dream team of, integrative medicine. I'm driving over here to Dr. Mimi Guarneri. She founded the Center for Integrative Medicine at Scripps. How about that? And she's the president. I served as the founding chair when she's still almost like she's lifetime president. She's probably one of the leading, and she moved over here and she's now got a state-of-the-art clinic at the Pacific Pearl. Like, you've never seen a medical clinic like this. You've never seen a medical clinic like that. So I'm actually now doing this integration as I'm driving over. It's like a 20-minute integration of offering myself as a case study and then describing how does conventional medicine relate to integrative medicine? And what's the intersect between that to actually kind of create the most robust case for healing? So it's probably the most eloquent integration that I've ever done on this. And it took 20 minutes and my conversation stopped as I arrived, boom. It was just like, it's like a cosmic script. I'm there. And by the way, every one of these, there's no scripting going on over here. I shoot this all in one take and it goes up to the cloud. One take up to the cloud, one take up to the cloud. So there's no editing around this. And so then I walk in and in perfect, Mimi's waiting for me on the stairs. She's a very busy physician, but somehow she's waiting for me on the stairs when I arrive. And then you see this beautiful kind of heart connection that Mimi and I have. And then she gives this walkthrough. You get a walkthrough, an inside world of what does the top integrative medicine clinic in the world look like? It looks like a spa. Just let me give you a hint. It doesn't look like a clinic. It looks like a spa. And you'll see that walkthrough. And then you watch me having my blood work taken. I go in the lab and she's explaining from an integrative medicine point of view, why are we taking these labs? So you hear kind of like the rationale for the labs you're taking. You're getting a window in that, it's precious. You're getting a window into the world. And then I'm getting the blood draw itself. So they're drawing about 15 labs, tubes. And so I tell a story. And then I tell the story in that 5 minutes. I tell the story of kind of Tracy Gaudet, Dr. Tracy Gaudet, who is one of the most extraordinary physicians. She is another leading light in the world of integrative medicine. Tracy Gaudet ran the healthcare revolution in the Veterans Administration by actually not only getting, the system to focus on the patient more fully, but actually putting the purpose, awakening the purpose of the patient, the purpose of the patient's health for them at the center of their care. So she tells a story. I tell a story of her telling a story out of our academy conference where she came and she spoke about, I'm having my blood taken. And she tells a story of a patient came into the VA, had her blood taken. She had diabetes and heart disease, and I don't know if she had cancer, but like a typical sick patient. And she's telling the story, and then she gets gets all the blood work done, and then she comes back to see the patient comes back to see her doctor in the VA, and Tracy tells the story about how the patient's doctor said, "Hey, I want to share with you your labs," and the patient said, "No, I don't want to see my labs." And he said, "Well, what do you mean you don't want to see your labs? You've had all these blood tubes drawn. Why wouldn't you want to see your labs?" And it goes on, and he's befuddled. The doctor's befuddled. And finally, the patient says, "Here's what this blood work is not important to me. What's really important to me is I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. That's the purpose of my main purpose in life right now, is to get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, if you can show me how my blood work will get me there, I'll take a look at that." So the revelation over here is so much of medicine is transactional, but when you anchor the work into the heart of purpose, now you've got a context for what do I want my health for? What do I want my health for? And patients begin to make a very different decisions. And so she created this whole health model that was based on that central purpose. And she then designed a model that actually created this incredible revolution in the VA where they studied it, and it had a massive effect. Just that question of anchoring around life purpose, it actually improved health outcomes and interesting decreased cost, healthcare costs. And so that's why now it's becoming mainstream within the VA. It's a powerful model. I'll pick up on that thread of the story later. Here's another interlude with just a blessed interlude with Barbara Sangrich, also from the exchange community, now providing us with something called Intensati. And, Intensati is a gift to the world because it's movement. And what it is, it's a combination of, think about it as aerobics, yoga, high intensity aerobics, but also with affirmation as you're doing. So you can think about, it's an integration when you go into that morning. In fact, I'd say I would placeholder for you to actually do Intensati after, that morning activity in the Leadership Academy. We should consider, and consider doing Intensati as well as a variation of that. And then we're now moving into a series where I'm busy priming for this week. I'm priming for the delivery of this Awakening Conscious Leadership workshop, the 3-day workshop that I'm going to deliver. And it's based on a program that I delivered for the Whole Health Institute in August with Tracy Gaudet for her team to actually set the entire institute, Whole Health Institute, up, on the foundation, all they're doing, and you'll see the amazing things that they're doing on the foundation of conscious leadership. So I've already done a 2-day workshop with them. And now I'm going back into the exchange community to offer this teaching back into the community for this 2-day deep dive. And you see that I've got the leadership team gathering over here, and you see the behind the scenes about the extraordinary preparation it takes, the intentional preparation it takes to do this work. So, it's not like anybody just shows up. There's a leadership team behind this work, not just me, but we're assembling who are the champions in the community that you want to hold the energetic heart for the event itself. So that's a very important part. I mean, that's a best practice. If you want to have successful events, who's your team and how are you going to awaken their energetic heart? So you hold this in, this whole thing in success, and you'll see just how extraordinary this leadership team is. And then I wake up over here, I'm feeling blessed at sunset because we're about to, it's the night before I'm starting my 3-day workshop. And then you see Dill comes home. I captured this 40-second video. It's an interlude, but he comes home because what Dill is, there's another subplot line. The love of my son is he's terrified. My oldest son, Zach, had COVID. So he can roam around freely and he did well with that. He's got antibodies right now, but Dill hasn't had COVID yet. So he's terrified of getting COVID out of love for me, because if I get COVID at that time, that I thought it's going to delay my therapy. And so he's very, very in angst about, and so here he comes home, he's got 3 masks on and gloves because he's been out somewhere. And so I said, Dill expressing his love for me more than words could say. And then here we go into you start seeing me do this kind of like, behind the scenes preparing for, each of these days. Just before they full day workshop, they 7 hours. Day 1 was 7 hours, day 2 was 7 hours, and day 3 was 3 hours. And and you see the behind the scenes, including John calling me just before we go on. And you'll see, you would imagine that some people would be very nervous before, and you'll just see the joy that John and I have for each other going into the session. It's just pure love. And then I give you a morning commute. I walk you down my stairs into my office studio, and you see my tech setup. So just that alone is like, it takes a fair amount of technology to do all of this. And I give you my tech setup that's actually, so that alone might be interesting for some people. And then these are cool. Here is Zach. Both Zach and Dylan went through the Awakening Conscious Leadership program itself. So talk about leaving your legacy. They got to experience me, what ultimately I declare, you'll see, this is the finest expression of my work that I've ever done. And there's a reason, because I was in partnership with John Berghoff and Adair Cates and a leadership team that enabled me to unlock the finest expression of my work that I've ever done. And so here's Zach anticipating the day. And it's part of actually, learning this. And it's not lost on me that Dill's the founding chair of the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism, and he's going to be doing this. It's going to be choreographed the same way. So not only is he learning the skills and capacities to awaken to conscious leadership itself, he's learning the choreography that we're running that will actually make this teen chapter very successful, because it's likely going to be very done in the online medium. So, and then previewing the second day, and then I've got another an interlude by Michael Harth, who's the co-founder of Laz Parking, one of the biggest parking companies in the world. They manage over 1 million parking spaces, sharing his love with me from Yosemite. Beautiful. But I also did that. I wanted him to know that he's the co-founder of one of the largest companies in his industry in the world. So when you're talking about an entrepreneurship at scale, this is, they have like over $1 billion in revenue a year, because they're managing all these things. But I want you to see what it means to be a loving leader. That's what I want you to see over here. What does it mean to be a loving, conscious leader? And he's a dear friend. We surf together over here. He's just like a soul brother as well. Michael's amazing. And then I preview the final day of the Awakening Conscious Leadership Deep Dive. And you'll see how, it's just, I'm going through such awakening through that. And then the coolest thing was, the final part of the program was actually, I put them in an activity of peer coaching. It's not lost on me that a lot of what you're doing in EO is peer coaching. So I actually set up a peer coaching process in terms of what is the structure for that unlocks extraordinary value, the ability to do this at the highest level. So we should come back and talk about, what does that look like? And here is Zach actually reflecting on what that experience was like for him in a way that had helped him fully integrate the possibility of me passing. So he's come over here, he's arrived at a metaphor through that process of coaching that I set up, but through where his partner, Loretta, showed him an hourglass. And instead of actually thinking that time was running out, he changed the metaphor to allow himself to feel completely connected to me even when I pass. And you have to watch that for the magic of what unfolded in that video. It's pure magic. And then that afternoon, I'm on my drive. So I should just, placeholder. Let me just say, we've recorded those 3 days of that workshop. It's going to become a product. So this can also be another possibility if anybody wants to go through that program. Now, there will be some investment in that. I will say that there will be an investment in that, but I just want you to know that 3-day magic is available to you in terms of how you might want to use that, however you want to use that in the curriculum of EO. And then I'm going to go over here to, I'm driving over to see Dr. Mason for my medical oncologist. And then this over here is, Amanda Rooker, my editor, went through the program itself. And her and her husband run Split Seed Media. And they are processing through the experience themselves in the most profound ways, and just to have a sense of her transformation. And she's writing all of these active learning cycles before. So now it's this virtuous cycle. All of that goes now into the gift to you in terms of the richness of what she's going to be writing about. She's literally had a full spiritual awakening herself through the program. And she's the editor of the book. And Ben actually said, look, the book he went like this in his video, that second video, he says, that experience took it from here to my heart. So they're going to be writing from their heart space, all of these. And we've got a placeholder where they're watching the videos right now as a family. So we have a placeholder for our family coming together with their family to actually just have that magical moment in terms of how does this feel like it's really being transferred between families. And then my dear, another interlude. Yes, my dear friend, he lives in Florida, Pastor Nathan Curtis. He ministers, he's not, I don't want to say, he's a minister, I don't know, but he runs something called The Well. Now, just look at this. Look at the synchronicity. Here's The Well, and we're talking about wellness. So that's the thing. And then he sent me this audio. Well, the reason why I called him at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I listened to what he sent me, it was the audio. He said, Danny, I've only had a song that I've ever sung to God. But I went into the studio, get this, and I spent 7 hours because I wanted to produce the song for you. And it's highly personalized to me. And the song is the most gorgeous song. It's called Flow Through Me. And it's about the well, and he tells a story about, he tells a story about one of the prophets at the well, and it's about this water metaphor and the water metaphor and spirit to flow through me, the spirit will flow through me. He said, I want you to have this, it's a 5 minute, and he's singing from the depths of his soul, wishing for my healing. So I called him and I said, I am so touched. You've only ever sung this to God, and now you're singing it to me. Would you bless me? And we're having a discussion over here. Would you bless me with the opportunity for not only keeping it to me, but blessing the world with this song? So this is the debut of his song, Flow Through Me, to the world. It's powerful. And then we did an epilogue over here where I thought our interview was over because I'd stopped the recording. And then he had to say, he said, well, Danny, he said, the mission of my church, and if you're anywhere in the Florida area, I mean, you have got to sign up for his church. I mean, you've got to enroll in that community, and he said, the essence of my ministry is live well, love well, and be well. And I'm thinking, well, Jesus, I could have put that over here, it's the description for that. So there's these synchronicities. So for me to be able to shine a light on the work that he's doing, so I'm shining a light on people that are already elevating the world, and they need to be more visible. I want him to have a global ministry through that, touch point. And then here, I've had so many synchronicities arrive. That I can hardly stand it. I have like about 5, and I would consider just this morning as one of many examples. George, the way we connected this morning, and even this call, even this discussion right now, is complete synchronicity, right? So then what I have the world expert to help us make sense of synchronicity. Because here's where I have a discussion with Dr. Phil Merry. He lives in Singapore. I know that Malaysia's close to Singapore?
Yes, it is.
You have got to meet Dr. Phil Merry. You have got to make a point. The next time you go to Singapore, I'm going to make a personal introduction to you. He is a deep soul. I mean, this was actually the first conversation we had one-on-one, but we felt like we'd known each other for like lifetimes as well. Why? Because he's so connected to this force field of miracles, and he's experienced unbelievable synchronicity in his life as well. And he's writing a book on synchronicity. So here's Phil Merry's bio. He's the only person in the world with a PhD in a grounded theory of synchronicity. So I'm talking to the world expert in synchronicity in the world. How's that for synchronicity? And yeah, here's an additional synchronicity. His mentor, his PhD supervisor, was David Cooperrider, the founder of Appreciative Inquiry, which inspired this exchange process that I've learned, the exchange approach. David mentored John Berghoff and all this glorious work he's doing in this work of. So how's that for a synchronicity? I can hardly stand it. It's just like, you can't even make this stuff up. So he's actually helping us make sense of that. And then this is a very sweet video interlude again. It's like a photo shoot where we're actually doing this photo shoot to preserve our joyful memories. And it's very light, it's funny. It's like a minute thing. And then I go into another one. And here is where this goes to a whole new level. This goes to a whole new level. Goes to a whole new level. And so I'm anticipating the day, and I'm anticipating what I'm most excited about. This day, I've got a call coming up with Susie Ellis, who's the chair of the Global Wellness Summit and the Global Wellness Institute. So let me just share with you the significance of this. Here's the Global Wellness Summit. So the Global Wellness Summit was modeled. Susie Ellis and Pete Ellis were the founders of SpaFind and the most heavily networked in the spa and wellness industry, the most heavily networked individuals. And they went to Davos, the world, Davos. Mm-hmm. Am I right in thinking is that the World Economic Forum? I don't know, maybe they're related. Yes. Is that right? Davos, the World Economic Forum? So these are where actually the world leaders gather to shape the future of our lives. And so they attended that and they said, you know what? We need to create a Davos for the global wellness industry. So this is it. This is what they've created. They've had, they've been going, I think, 14, 15 years with these world-class events in all these different locations. And so they have these summits. And here's the tagline: joining together to shape the future. They're joining together to shape the future of wellness. And they have all, these are the directors and owners of all these leading spas around the world, including the Hyatts and the, Rosewood and, Six Senses. just these global brands and Technogym, and just like there's just, there's just like too many people to name, and they come together and they have these summits. The next one is in Israel, November 2021. So I just want you to know the significance of this, and here's another part of the backstory. I met Susie Ellis in 2010, when I was doing a lot of my evidence-based medicine sharing. And evidence-based medicine is the standard by which all healthcare providers are now trained to make science-based decisions. It's evolved to be that. It's mentioned about 7 or 8 times in Obamacare. And a lot of the tussle in COVID was the tussle between science and anecdote. So I'm one of the key thought leaders in helping set the scientific foundation, of the practice of science-based medicine. And so I was giving a talk at a conference, at a congress, on it was a World Medical Tourism Congress, and I was giving the talk on evidence-based medicine setting the scientific foundation for the global wellness industry. And Susie, that's where I met Susie. Susie came up to me afterwards, and she's the maven and visionary, in this global wellness movement with the Global Wellness Summit. And she just had the summit at the time. She hadn't launched the institute yet. And she said, Danny, we need to actually do this for our summit. We need to actually set the scientific foundation. Can you help me do this? I said, I would be honored, Susie. And so I helped her create, together with Dr. Mark Cohen, Dr. Ken Pelletier, we created this extraordinary resource, which is wellnessevidence.com. So you can go over here to look at, the top 35 modalities in this world of wellness. This is like really through in many ways. Well, it's the world of wellness. And so you look over here, for example, acupuncture. And so all I did was I helped, curate some databases. I mean, I know that it's very difficult to do primary or even secondary research by yourself. So I'm just pointing to people that have already done that incredibly well. These are the databases. And so over here, I mean, Natural Stand, I think, has been merged into another database. So we need a thing. So if you want to kind of very quickly figure out, like, what is the evidence for acupuncture? And here you get the evidence. It's like, oh, it's grade A evidence, which means very good evidence for osteoarthritis pain, post-operative pain, and then grade B, moderate evidence for fibromyalgia. So it's a way of getting into the this. And when we launched this in Bali, I helped to launch in Bali. People were crying. Why? Because people don't go into this industry because for money. There's margins are quite small. They go into for love and passion. These are entrepreneurs. Think about these entrepreneurs all around the world. They're going into for the love of their passion. But they get crushed by the conventional medicine system, so they marginalize because there's not a lot of evidence for what they do. And when we put this out there, all of a sudden they were cathartic with tears into an understanding. This gave legitimacy to this gave legitimacy to their life purpose work. So, but here's where I'm going. In addition, when they launched the Global Wellness Initiative, they launched in Marrakesh. And I actually gave the talk on conscious leadership before that launch. So to set up this whole, as part of actually a transition and say, well, it takes conscious awakened leaders to actually do this work in the world. And essentially what their tagline of this nonprofit arm, is empowering wellness worldwide. And so it's just wonderful how this is coming full. So they've got all these initiatives, like African Wellness Initiative, clean water, beyond GDP, World Happiness and Wellbeing Initiative. I mean, it's just I was part of the Mental Wellness Initiative. It just the amount of, wellness for, I'm going to have to look at this, Wellness for Cancer Initiative. I want to just see, because I want to, if I think who it is. Yes. I want to give a call out to Julie Bach. She's such an extraordinary woman who I've become dear friends with as well. Julie Bach, just remember the name. And so they've also got like a program or a partnership going with the Vatican as being part of resetting the world of wellness in this time of COVID. So at that scale. So I talked to Susie on day 25, and Susie finishes the call, says, I want to invite you to be one of these I want Living Well from Within to be our newest initiative. So I'm going to be an initiative in this extraordinary, I'm so deeply honored to be in this community. But why I'm honored, here's why I'm honored. It gives me a place to convene. It gives me a place to convene by bringing other organizations into the initiative and then convening together to shape the future of, the tagline is facilitating healing, growth, and flourishing wellness. I can bring together now a coalition of movements. I can bring together now a coalition of movements to do this work in physical space. So it takes it to a whole new level. So, well, I want to just go back over here to what unfolded next. there's this other part of the story. So when I go back over here to the story, so I've been given this opportunity to invite participation, and my dream is imagining what if we all convened in Israel, the leaders of these extraordinary organizations that I'm networked with. And what if we actually convene in a facilitated experience with, appreciative inquiry, do these large scale summits. They've, founded, many companies that have used this is really kind of, I'm thinking about Starbucks, Facebook, Google, many of these companies, even the United Nations, they've already leveraged the choreography of how do you unlock collective wisdom at scale to make things happen. So there's that methodology that you can gather together and really make things happen. So what if we got the leaders of all these organizations that are elevating humanity together, all these coalitions, we built a coalition coming together to truly, when in the spirit of the tagline of the Global Wellness Summit, coming together to shape the future, joining together to shape the future. What if this was it? That we brought all these leaders together to go through a facilitated experience to make this happen. That's the vision that I hold. Now, I in all due respect, I want to make sure that this fits within the Global Wellness Summit's vision, and certainly Nancy Davis has a big imprint on this, and I want to really respect whatever she feels will best serve. I want to honor that deeply. But that's my dream. I have to put that out. It's my dream. And then I started the very next call I had the next morning. The first organization that I offered an invitation to join the Global Wellness Institute Leading Well from Within initiative was the Whole Health Institute, because of the scale of what they're doing. They're bringing whole health to 13 segments of society with this incredible team, and I've already taken them through this Awakening Conscious Leadership deep dive. So we are aligned in this ability to, what does it mean to elevate humanity? Complete alignment. And then that afternoon, you watch me go for my radiations. This is my first radiation therapy. And yes, where I'm strapped down. And then that evening, I have a call with Chip Conley, who runs the Modern Elder Academy. Chip is the most extraordinary individual, and he's got a compelling story. He runs this he's sharing his abundant wisdom from the Modern Elder Academy, which is a midlife wisdom school that helps individuals transition from their life through midlife, from a place of success to significance. And I'm thinking how many entrepreneurs are on that path where they've been driven for success, but what does it mean to actually go into deeper apprenticeship and start thinking about significance of your life? This is the school that does it. So he was there to actually accept as a second organization for this initiative. And then it's not in the channel yet. I did this incredible workshop. I'm training the training department of Genentech Roche. And I've had this wonderful relationship with them for 6 years, and they've got the most extraordinary leader there, with Carol Wells. She is such a dear love. Top Genentech Roche is about 30,000, employees. It's a big company. And yet this is the heart. Their training and department is she embodies what it means to actually be a heart-centered conscious leader. She's the living embodiment of that. So I'm on a coaching program with her training team, and I extend the invitation to her. So that's going through approval right now, the approval process. I'm going to be extending the next invitations to Conscious Capitalism, to the American Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. I'm going to extend, because I'm imagining what would it look like for Dr. Mimi Guarneri to be in the room. with that? What would it look like for not only Alexander to be in the room, but also John Mackey, CEO of Whole Foods? What would that look like? Raj Sisodia, who wrote the book, Firms of Endearment. What would it look like for us to all be in the same room together? And so that brings me to this next invitation. I'd love to invite you. And I know that you may need to get approval from the global board. So I don't want to put you on the spot to actually, and I respect that this is not going to be a definitive yes, but I want to extend the invitation to you to provisionally accept on behalf of the EO Global Board and to invite you to be in Israel with us, with Warren, and with any representation from the global board that you would like to be a part of this collaboration to shape the future, of healing and flourishing wellness in the world together.
Oh, thank you very much, Daniel. This is a great honor. And as we started the conversation, as an organization, EO is always open to collaboration, smart partnership with people that have a shared vision of making the world a better place. I can certainly take this back to the right channel in the EO former organization. As an organization, we have a committee that looks at external engagement, and they'll be, without committing on their behalf, they will be looking out for opportunity like this to continue to add values to our members and to add value to others. So whatever we can contribute towards the conscious leadership or towards the global wellness initiative, especially your sector, Living Well from Within, it'll be a privilege, Daniel, for us to find ways to come together so that there's synergy, there's wonderful things. These are all good things, and there's no obvious reason in my mind for EO not to want to support or collaborate in any manner. So I will be certainly very happy to take the invitation back to our organization and allow the right leader to take it up with you to collaborate. So thank you kindly, Daniel, for the invitation. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, so I think, I know we've gone on for far longer than we imagined, but I mean, I think this is what has been asked for. And if you're still watching, God bless you. I hope you've got a bio break somewhere in between, because I know this has been a longer video. And certainly, I'm also mindful of the value to your EO members watching this, and I hope that all of your EO members watching this, because this, I think what you have shared here is a finest expression that I've yet seen on the value. When you're communicating value about EO, you communicate in two ways. It's communicating the value internally, and then there's communicating externally. I think this was what you have just shared, George, is the finest expression that I've heard yet within your, I've seen many people present, what's the value of EO? This way you expressed yourself is the finest expression of the value of EO to both your internal stakeholders as well as, an encouragement for enrollment to bring in more members. So thank you for sharing. And I want to give you the last word, and as we wrap up, anything that you feel moved to share in the close, and then we will just we will end it here.
And Daniel, I think what I want to share and close is so typical of you, that I know you. You're full of love, and you want to give things to the world. The sets of video that you have done, you say that this is the curriculum for a potential entrepreneurial MBA program if we deliver a program like this. But what is actually the series of video is about learning about life from life itself.
Yes, life is the curriculum.
Learning of life from life itself is a very powerful. We are not learning about life from books and from research, but learning. So your video way of learning is the kind of learning that is really, really powerful, authentic, and specialized learning versus general learning.
Yes.
So I feel that these sets of video that you are doing, Daniel, is so powerful because it's, as I said earlier, it's about learning about life from life itself. And that is the highest level of learning because it is about sharing experiences, the truth. And you, because you're such an amazing human being, you have so many friends who are willing to contribute and share those videos. And I've seen some of them, they are so personal, they are so in the moment. Yeah. And I think those videos are not scripted. People spoke from their heart in that moment. Yeah. And sometimes you just learn so much in those videos. So thank you for that gift.
So I want to actually, I'm mindful that just what you said right now is what you've embodied in this video here. So exactly the same credit that that magic moment just happened. It was an authentic moment that just unfolded. There was no script to this, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we actually were engaged in the very thing that you're talking about right now in this video. And what you're talking about, actually having dear friends.
Yeah.
You're a dear friend that's now coming in with this magic moment, blessing our playlist itself. And this is, I would consider this to be actually a highlight video in the playlist right now. So it's been a deep honor to be with you over here today.
And Daniel, I really, really appreciate you. We love you, and you're just such an amazing human. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for this recording.
Well,
thank you.
Before you go, I love you as well. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to stop the video right now because I also want to give you kind of like a private, goodbye as well. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody. Wishing you a blessed day. Bye. Hope this has served you well. And for all the people watching in EO, especially, I love, and appreciate each and every one of you and the extraordinary work that you're doing in the world. I love you.
Thank you.